Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. We are in the thick of election campaign, national as well as statewide. And today I have a great pleasure in welcoming an Indian who is fighting on Republican ticket to enter New York State Assembly from District 16. Her name is Ragini Srivastava, and she has been very deeply involved in campaigning for her candidacy. So welcome to the program, Ragini ji, and welcome to the viewers. So
Thank you. Thank you,
without wasting much time, what I would like to do is to, you have your district is 16, which is Hempstead, Great Neck, Port Washington, Manhasset, Old Westbury. It's a very prosperous blue state, blue area, very dominated. But Nassau County has also gone Republican at times.
Right.
So the question is, what inspired you to enter politics? And why do you think you are the right candidate for the voters of this community?
Thank you, Vibhuti ji. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah. So, thanks for introducing me, and thanks for giving me this opportunity, so to say, so I can introduce my vision with the viewers. I have been working in the community for quite some time. I would say I never planned to come in politics, but when working with the community, if you have that sense of responsibility, you want to take another step so you can make things better. And this is kind of my another step to do something to make things better. And there are few concerns. I'm in District 16, and I want to take a stand for the people of my constituency. And that's why we all come here, like most of us Indians share same kind of story. We all come here in search of good life. And I also came 19 years back, excuse me. And I am living my American dream. And now I think is the time to give back to the community and to the country that has given us so much.
Okay, so that has been a good general statement, but let's get to specifics. You are from the New York District Assembly 16 and Assembly District 16, but your election is also very much connected with the presidential election because of the Republican ticket. So you must have watched the first debate of President Trump and the second debate of Mr. Pence and Mrs. Kamala Harris.
Right.
So the question is, how do you think, there are two things which I want to check with you so that the voters of this district know what you stand for. It is important to tell what are the typical concerns, the most important top of the concerns of this constituency, and how does the candidacy of Trump and Pence help you?
So we have a few concerns. When I was, working in the community also, what I realized that there's a disconnect between what the people actually need, what they actually want, and how out of touch elected officials are there in Albany. Like the new bail reform is a big concern, where the criminals, dangerous criminals, are let loose on the streets. The judges are powerless. They are not able to detain the dangerous criminals. And more to accompany that, there is this discovery reform now, where they have to disclose the identity of the people or the who testify against the criminals. So safety of our neighborhood is a big concern. Now crime rate is going up like anything, and my focus is basically on peace and prosperity and a safer neighborhood. And that is what the concern is. Yes, please go ahead.
No. That's a very, very valid concern because America is a huge country. Right. And we know that many communities do not have, constant monitoring, and there is a lot left to the people to
Right.
maintain peace and calm. And without peace and calm, we are not safe in our own homes. So,
Right.
who wants? I don't think anyone in District 16 wants this district to become like Chicago or the
Right.
rampant violence that is happening in New York City of that kind. So, just tell us a little bit more about, the safety of life, safety of property is key, and it definitely clashes with the violence when the people who are unhappy with the process uh, resort to the violence. So violence is not a solution. Discussion is.
Of
So
course.
share with us your thoughts about what is the frustrating element for people to resort to violence. At the same time, what exactly would you do to ensure that there is safety of people? You are absolutely right.
Yes. So thanks, Vibhuti ji. It is limiting effectiveness of law enforcement is a big concern, I would say, because we all, for a safer neighborhood, we need a strong law enforcement. So I will definitely stand with our law enforcement. And I know with so much of disagreement and unrest and everything, violence is not acceptable at any level for anyone, right? It's not good for anyone. So safety becomes a big concern because of the lot of steps that has been proposed or taken by the local government. I mean, defunding police, I don't support that. That is not, because like I said earlier also, that I stand with strong law enforcement, because we need it. I'm a business owner, and I understand, even for our businesses to flourish, uh, a safer neighborhood, strong law enforcement is important. It's important. And I want to create a dynamic economic corridor, but for that also comes down to the safer neighborhood. And our businesses, I would say, are very vital for the economy. And it's a necessity to support our businesses and to make sure that we have a very safe neighborhood so that they can flourish. If businesses are doing good, they have they're there is opportunity so they can grow and flourish. This will help, even there'll be less burden on the taxpayers, the homeowners. So it's very important. So again, it comes down to the safety. That's what I was trying to say. That a
Mhm.
safer. Yeah, please go
Now,
ahead.
I am also a resident of your District 16, so I am a likely voter. My
Right.
question is that I find that our District 16 is remarkably peaceful. So is law and order a problem in our district, or is it there is something else that people need to pay attention to? The unemployment scenario, the COVID-related crisis. I prefer to call COVID as a Wuhan virus because we know it started from there, and I'm happy to be politically incorrect in that regard. So the question here is that what is it that is the uppermost thought in the minds of the voters of District 16?
So, I would say yes, relatively, Nassau County is still safer if but if the same kind of policies, if we are going to, we have to repeal the bail reform if it is there, and with not with making our law enforcement ineffective. How long can we remain safe? That's a question.
That's a
Okay,
good
that
point.
you might
That's a
see.
very good point.
Yeah,
Actually, yeah, because COVID, Wuhan virus related economic impact is very severe, and everybody is fearful about it. As to if New York City is in a mess, if Suffolk County is in a mess, if country is in a mess economically, with higher unemployment and mental stress people are going through because of extended closure. Uh, you know how long will everybody wait? Because Nassau County economy is dependent on its neighboring areas. People from Nassau County go to Manhattan to work. They go as far as Suffolk County to work. So you are right about that. Unemployment and economic distress will cause stress, and we have to be ready to face that.
Exactly.
and that preparedness is important. So the question is, how did you end up choosing the Republican ticket, and what was the inspiration for that?
So Republican policies are pro businesses, and I'm a business owner, and I I believe in the policies, and it's going to help everyone, Vibhuti ji. Now, I will fight for there's a COVID-19 relief money, that should be allocated to all the businesses. I want businesses, small businesses to flourish. There was one proposal of, Amazon. Maybe a lot of people know that Amazon headquarters was kind of planning to come to Long Island City. It never materialized. Otherwise, it would have created approximately 25,000 jobs, and with a very decent salary. So this is what we need to focus on. We need to focus on it. Like you said, like after COVID, people are facing a lot of stress at various levels. We can go into detail, but not. But what, we cannot take care of everything. But if we can help people, they don't have to worry about their next meal, and so to say, just to focus on more prosperity, even that can help a lot. So that's why the policies, I believe in strong law enforcement. I believe in better economy, and like I said earlier also, that dynamic economic corridors I want to fight for. So this is what the Republican policy is. So that's why I believe in that.
Good. The other point which I wanted to touch base with you, that in your campaigns, what kind of a reception you have got from non-Indians, the Latinos, the white, the blacks, because, Indians, by generally speaking, are much liked people, because
Right.
we work hard, we are professionals, and
Right.
there is a tremendous amount of respect for Indian community as a whole, as I know it,
Right.
because we are least problem from the law and order point of view. We work
Mhm.
hard, we make our living, and we are peaceful people. So how has been the reception you got from non-Indian communities in your District 16?
So Vibhuti ji, in my constituency, in my area, the people are very, hardworking, very peaceful people, and they all want safety, the security, because they're family-oriented people, hardworking people, and more opportunity to grow. So the response has been great. I'm walking, and knocking door, meeting a lot of people, and that's what I shared. This is the concern of the people. They want safer neighborhoods, and they want someone who can be their real voice in Albany, not just voice, a person. This is what I believe, and I think the elected officials, they represent the communities, right? So they choose someone, they vote the people of the constituency. So when there is a concern of the people, elected officials, they should come back to the constituency, to the people, and ask what's bothering you. And so what I wanted to say, like to answer your question, that the response is great, and that's very encouraging, very motivating, because people want someone who can listen to their concern and who can understand what they want, what the people of my, and I have already, for 10 years, I said I was working in the community, volunteering at different levels. So that is kind of helping me a lot.
Excellent. And I'm very delighted that you seem very happy with your efforts. And I wish you well for your campaign and for your victory.
Thank you.
And, there is, come back again, talk
Right.
more, reach out to your voters. And I would wish you well on
Thank you.
behalf of all the viewers of, Frankly Speaking and ITV Gold. So good luck,
Thank
best
you.
wishes. And
Thank
I'm
you.
your constituent, and I'm a voter from your area. I'll keep my vote secret. Uh,
Yes, I would request, still I would request you,
and
please vote for me.
but I totally resonate with you for the safety, handling the prosperous community like Nassau County District 16, to continue it to grow despite all the stress. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Viewers,
Thank you.
stay back. We will be back right after this short break. Welcome back. In this segment, we are going to talk about the inevitable presidential election and the issues relating thereto. So there are two or three things that have happened in the last week. In the last week, one is the vice presidential debate, which was perhaps very, very strong indicator of shape of things to come, and perhaps one of the most important vice presidential debates that I have seen since 1992 that I came here. The second part is that President Trump was in Walter Reed Hospital because of coronavirus. There were many conspiracy theories floating about him that was it real, or it was just a sympathy vote garner? Or was it that he wanted to show to the world that he is coronavirus struck, recovers, and he can go back and fight and be the comeback kid and the hero? So there are a lot of conspiracy theories floating. In one of the programs, I believe the participants were demanding that as president, we have a right to know his full medical record, and we want to know everything that has happened in the hospital, what drugs he took and everything else, so that we can determine whether he's fit enough to run. And lo and behold, Nancy Pelosi floated the idea, not idea, she talked about it, that she would invoke Article 25 to determine the fitness and declare him unfit. Now that's a pretty serious surcharge atmosphere. So discuss these matters. I have great pleasure in welcoming two of my returning guests. One of them is Srilekha Palle, a healthcare professional, entrepreneur, and a dedicated supporter of Trump. And I have the great pleasure in welcoming Dr. Rakesh Sharma. He's the chief of medicine and director of ICU in a prominent hospital in Smithtown in Long Island. And Dr. Sharma is one of the authentic frontline fighters in this coronavirus war, because as the chief of ICU, he was attending to 40 coronavirus patients at a time, or as long as it was in his full capacity of the ICU. So welcome to both of you. I will begin the innings with Srilekha Palle, asking her to comment upon the vice presidential debate, as I prefaced it by saying that this was the debate where the vice presidential candidates had to make an impression, because they are literally and figuratively a breath away from the presidency, given the age and vulnerability of both the presidential candidates, one incumbent president, one aspiring president. Srilekha ji, you tell me, how did you find the debate? Was it a freshness from the debacle of the presidential debate? It seemed very decent.
So Vibhuti Jha, I was actually very much looking forward for this vice presidential debate after the debacle that happened with the presidential debate. As expected, Mike Pence behaved extremely calm, composed, very respectful of the entire scenario. So no surprises there. He not only expressed his ideas very thoroughly, he articulated the policies. He not only articulated his policies very well, he empathized with the American public, and he was also able to comprehend what his vision was for the next 4 years. So there are no surprises whatsoever for somebody that comes with his faith, and I was not surprised at all. But I was definitely surprised with Kamala Harris' style, though. I thought Kamala Harris came up with quite a bit of condescending attitude. She was smirking. Her body language was extremely poor. As somebody that I consider myself as a feminist, I have a soft corner for females. I really would like to see females be on the stage, perform well. I must admit that I was thoroughly disappointed by her attitude. I think she came across as not wanting to really come up with the facts, not wanting to be honest with the public. I felt like majority of the things that I went back and did a lot of fact checking, she was blatantly lying to the public. The questions that Susan, the moderator, was asking, half of the questions were not answered. In fact, she was going back and responding to the answers in much more of a defensive manner, but was responding to questions that were not related to the questions asked by Susan. So it was it was not something that I would have expected from her. Again, coming from an Indian origin, I just was a little selfish. I wanted her to hear her talk about her heritage. She spoke that she came to, she spoke about her mom, but refused to say that she is of Indian heritage or talk about anything that has to do with the Hindu heritage. So I was a little disappointed. I think I was more disappointed about Indian Americans more than Kamala, because it's okay for her to flaunt about her Black heritage because that's what she identifies herself. But I think coming from an Indian American background, I wonder why Indian Americans flaunt about her heritage when she doesn't flaunt about her heritage as Indian American. So that was a little disappointing for me. But overall, I think Kamala really disappointed me. As a prosecutor, I would have expected her to debate well. I would have expected her to state the facts well, and I think she did not. It was not pleasing to see her body language at all. And one last final point I wanted to make is how disrespectful she was with the authority. She made it a point to call President Obama as President Obama. In fact, she made it a point to call Vice President Pence as Vice President Pence, but not once she graciously called Donald Trump as President Trump. When you have kids watching the debate, it is extremely disappointing to see a person that is just one step away to becoming a president not respect a colleague of hers. So I think that's a very bad example to set for the entire country. My daughter, who is a middle schooler, was watching that. That's just very disappointing for her to watch.
And that's a very, very important observation because, funnily enough, she ran a rather timid and tepid campaign for presidency herself. And she had to pull back because her own party did not support her candidature. So isn't it very funny that she's coming the backdoor way, the vice presidential route to become to the presidency? Sharmaji, this is a very important consideration here again, that I find that she did not talk about her Indian heritage at all. I have no problem with that. What I have problem with, what I find is that she is welcome to choose her identity. Absolutely fine. If she feels connected with the Black and she proudly calls herself as a Black candidate, a Black woman, I'm fine with that. What's wrong with us Desis? The moment they heard the word Kamala, then suddenly the all heritage Idli dosa comes up. And she didn't even bother to talk about that. So the question is, and her stand on anti-India scenarios are very clear, crystal clear. So I did not expect the candidates to address every question dutifully, because debate is a thing in which you do not answer questions that you don't want to answer, because they don't have an answer in 2.5 minutes. So that is a talking point for media and the press. What do you think? What was your impression of the debate, given the fact that you are a doctor and you are frank, bold, and blunt?
Believe me, I have been interested in politics for so long that I have been watching every presidential debate since 1980. Oh. And when I came to this country, and as we remember, Ronald Reagan and Jimmy Carter were contesting at that time. Mm-hmm. So I'm also kind of amazed that this is the once in a long time when vice presidential debate has been very important. And Mike Pence did a great job. I can only say one thing: if there were 2 seats for the president in this country, Mike Pence would have won the second seat easily just after first debate. And there wouldn't have been any election for him. He also raised the bar so high. He actually taught every politician lesson 101, how to debate, how to stay calm, quiet, respectful. While admiring Kamala Harris, he made his point so clear that next 2 presidential debates will have tough time coming at the same level that Mike Pence has raised. So now coming back to your question, what did I think about Kamala Harris not acknowledging her Indian heritage. Well, I have no problem with that.
Yes.
If someone does not want to acknowledge their ancestors, it is shame on them, not on me. Uh, our children are products of their parents. If my kids turn out to be bad, it's a reflection on me as well as my wife. So if Kamala Harris is so ashamed to say that her mother came from India or that her mother was a Hindu woman, I think it's the fault of her mother. Looks like her mother did not raise her daughter properly. Uh, I would give, 3 cheers to President Obama. President Obama was also a child of a white woman and a black man. And he was very proud during campaign. He always said that his mother was white, that he was raised by his white grandparents. And that's what I call a decent person. Kamala Harris, somehow, I'm very uncomfortable saying that, has not shown decency. If a person is not proud of their heritage, I don't think tomorrow she will be a good vice president. And I just want Indian Americans to know that the name itself doesn't mean much. If Kamala Harris is so ashamed to say that her mother came from India, that her mother was Hindu, I don't think any Indian American should vote for her. But of course, you and me cannot tell people what to do. But this is a point they must note, that if they are celebrating in their houses that one of them has been selected to be vice president, a vice presidential candidate for US, I have a news for them, that their candidate is really not proud of the heritage.
That's true. And that brings me to other aspect of that. We know that statistically and historically, 80% of the Indians have voted Democrat. They are registered Democrats. And what I find is that there is a very strong undercurrent of hatred in them about any Indian supporting Trump. There is a very strong undercurrent of hatred, because they then begin to mock those who are supporting Trump. That's also very bizarre. They have some kind of high-handedness that only evil people support Trump. Now, that said, there is other aspect of this as well. And that is the fact that I feel that this vice presidential candidacy is remarkably important, because I have said this on this program, and I believe that if in case Biden wins, he will resign within 6 months or so after his first State of the Union, and he will hand over the reins to the first ever Black woman or a woman to be the president, to run her show for the next 3 years. Mark my words, I said it here today. If he wins, presidency goes to Kamala Harris, who can then run her own campaign, fulfill Obama's dream of transforming America from the fundamentals. That's the challenge which America faces. And this is the part which I'm very strong about, that none of us came to America to live in another socialist country. And I am personally terrified, because I believe that Americans have no clue whatsoever what democratic socialism does to people and the economies. And that's a conversation for yet another day. Maybe next week we will talk about the suitability of the systems. Which system suits America better? Now, switching back to another important topic, coronavirus. Mr. Trump on October 1 declared that he had turned positive on coronavirus, and then all hell broke loose. Now, ever since then, I have seen some horrendous reporting from mainstream media in which I noted down the names of people. I noted down the names of people who virtually begged or prayed for president's death on Twitter. And their honorable names are Zare Rahim, Steve Cox, Max Berger. CNN talked about that he deserves it. And, this was, and people said he asked for it. tell me one thing. Does anybody ask a tragedy to fall on him? I mean, isn't this kind of a thing called bankruptcy of your noble thought? That you are thinking that he must die and he deserves it, he asked for it? Whether it is careless, nobody drives at 90 miles to commit an accident and die. It's a momentary action. So there is a lapse of decision. The second part which I want to talk about is the fact that when he went to the hospital, doctor, I will begin with you this part. Now you don't have his case papers, so it is unfair on me to ask you to hypothecate, but that's what I'm asking you to do, because opposition and Democrats are saying that he's mentally gone and that he's unable to. So kind of medications that he took and that has brought him back to life, that today, on Thursday, the doctors declared that he can go on campaigning full steam. What is leading to the quick recovery? And the medications that he took, I mean, I can't even pronounce those names, you guys are good at it. So share with us the medications he had, and is he really fit or doctors are concealing information?
Okay, now let's talk about real medicine.
Yes.
President did contract COVID-19, which of course anybody can, and someone who has been in public has higher risk of getting it. So I think that's the reason why President Trump had COVID-19. Coming to the medication part, if he was not the president of this country, the treatment would have been quite different. You and me perhaps will be observed in a different way. But here we are talking about the president. I can be treated differently because I have enough time, I can be observed. A president has to be treated at a very different level. And that's what his doctors actually did. And I was very happily surprised when I found out that very first day they gave him antibody, which are actually not from convalescent plasma. They are synthesized, and it's called Regeneron. This is very new. In fact, it has not been marketed yet. He was one of the first person to receive it, and is still in phase 3 as far as I know. So he was given that before he went to the hospital. And the reason being, we all know from our experience of the last 5 to 6 months that when virus attacks initially, that's when you don't get into trouble. You only get into trouble few days later when your own body reacts to the virus, and that's what we call cytokine storm, where your body acts as a different person that reacts to the virus, and there's so much inflammation in the lungs and other organs that you really cannot breathe, your oxygen level goes down. So doctors were very smart. They gave him antiviral antibody so that the virus does not multiply at a speed that it normally does. And then very next day, when he went to the hospital, he was given another antiviral medication called remdesivir, which became very popular 3 months ago during COVID-19 pandemic. It has been used for years in other conditions. And I'm sure President Trump also received corticosteroids, which is the backbone these days of any COVID-19 infection. So his treatment was excellent, and doctors deserve a lot of applause the way they took care of the president. As far as President Trump is concerned, these medications do not have any effect on the brain. They don't have any side effect on the thinking. They do not paralyze person's memory or thinking. In fact, just like he mentioned the other day, he feels better than he did 20 years ago. And I believe him. These medications and steroid and Regeneron did make him feel much better. So I see no reason why anyone should doubt his capabilities. And number two, since he started this symptoms or his symptoms on 1st of October, we know from our experience that after 10 days of origin of the symptoms, you are actually infection free. You cannot transmit the infection to anybody else. So I think starting 11th of October, he really cannot transmit the infection to anyone else. So anyone debating him or standing next to him will be safe.
Now, this is very, very reassuring to hear from you what you said. You described the medications you took, you described the sequence, and you also illustrated that the potential of side effects looks very difficult or rare. But Srilekha ji, I will ask you a conspiratorial question, which has emerged on several talk shows and discussions on the platform, saying that, did he fake his illness? And I was wondering, what were those people smoking that they came up with this conspiracy theory in this 2020 or 21st century, where New York Times, other than commenting on Trump's bedroom habits, they virtually seem to know everything, right? So nothing is hidden from anyone. So can he fake such a serious illness in such a public eye? And people are asking that we are entitled to his deepest medical records because he's a public servant and we need to know. So his record has to be made public. Your thoughts?
So, Vibhuti Jha, I think this is a good segue of information as a rehabilitation professional. Since March, since COVID took place, I probably saw about hundreds of patients like Dr. Sharma saw. I manage close to 60 therapists under my, and between 60 therapists and myself, we see hundreds of patients. So there are no cognitive issues with COVID patients. So if Nancy Pelosi is trying to invoke Article 25, she probably has to do it on Joe Biden and herself, not on Trump at this point, because there are no residual effects with COVID. In fact, we started doing protocols for post-COVID syndrome, thinking that there may be a long-term effects with regards to pneumonia and stuff, but there is no proven evidence at this point. There may be some frailty issues in older adults with comorbidities, but that too, there is really no research behind it. These are all something that we are predicting things could happen in a long term, but really, I mean, we see patients on a daily basis, patients get discharged, so anything that is getting invoked should be really done on themselves at this point. So that kind of being said about the conspiracy theory, I think any conspiracy theories that they're saying it is an insult to the medical professionals. I am looking at Walter Reed medical specialist, Dr. Conley, who is highly qualified. Dr. Sharma can look at his credentials. Dr. Sean Conley, that has supervised Mr. Trump's care, and his testimony about Mr. Trump's care. So there is really no conspiracy theory. There is no way Walter Reed or professionals such as Dr. Conley are going to lie about his disease to such an extent. I think it is New York Times and Washington Post that are behind this. I think this is factual that has happened. In fact, I was actually present when Trump passed by in his motorcade, waving with his mask on. So that's all real. Everything is real. So whatever that is being portrayed in the media is all fake media. That's all I can tell.
But the important thing is that in politics, you do things for optics, and you do things because you want to do things. Mr. Trump is a irrepressible guy. There's nobody who can put him down. He is a man of his own will. So he decided to do that. But speaking from a different point of view, did he need to do that? I mean, there was so much of goodwill. I mean, I was surprised to see that even New York City ran a protest in support of, did a march in New York City, Staten Island, California, and many parts of the country. People took a sympathy march and supporting him. So that was very positive. I never thought in New York there are enough Republicans or Trump supporters to take a march down the Fifth Avenue. But having said that, what definitely is important here, Dr. Sharma, is the way the attack on Trump is coming in terms of trust and leadership. And I've been rather amused when Biden keeps talking about, I will go for science. I mean, yesterday's debate, Kamala Harris is on record saying that I will trust the medicine, but not if Trump tells me to take it. Now, Pence did say that you are inspiring, hatred, and you are inspiring lack of confidence. But isn't it the system that the presidents don't promulgate a medicine? It is FDA has to approve first. Even if you have Operation Warp Speed, the pharmaceutical companies have their own liability. To say that if Trump says I will not take it, but if the doctor says I'll take it, Trump doesn't have to say it. Trump has to just announce that company A has got FDA approval to launch this medication. Like you said, Regeneron was given to him, which is still in a trial stage. So share with us your thoughts on that kind of a.
I think what Kamala or Senator Harris said was, if the vaccine comes out, she will not take it. That was her statement. And it's unfortunate when a future leader of the country is telling the public on the stage, which is being watched by millions of Americans, hey guys, if COVID-19 vaccine comes out, I'm not taking it, and you should not take it either, because President Trump has kind of given his blessings to some company. To me, that is undermining, just like you said, FDA, the pharmaceutical companies, all the scientists who have worked so hard to bring the vaccine so quickly to all the countries. So Kamala Harris should have not used that kind of sentence or language. I think it only goes against her, not against President Trump. And I would say that any leader, political leader who takes sides on medical issues has to be wrong. And public has to look through them. Like if today they are taking side of some medicine, or they are talking against some medicine, will they be a good leader tomorrow? That's what public has to do. I think Senator Harris made a huge mistake by making that kind of statement. And I see no reason why anybody should doubt the vaccine, because the vaccine is not manufactured by Trump and company, is not being blessed by Trump and company. It is approved by FDA, is made by pharmaceutical companies who are at the risk of getting sued for billions of dollars if something goes wrong. So they will not bring any drug or any vaccine in the market which is not up to par.
That's perfectly, I'm in agreement with you, because, that there is, there are certain expertise that you can't cross beyond. So if you are a nuclear scientist, you can't be talking, whether you are a president or not, you have to depend on the advice of the nuclear scientists about what can happen, what cannot. Likewise with the world of medicine. But important part here also is that how pompously, Mr. Biden talks about the fact that I will depend upon the science. I will not go by my mood. I will go by science. And my thought process is very simple. Having done a lot of work in the domain of leadership, the leadership is about decision making. Whether you are science, medicine, engineering, biology, economics, or whatever, there are always two sides of the opinion on anything, on anything. That's why in the noble profession of physicians, they say, take the second opinion. It is not insulting the first opinion, but just to make sure that there is more confluence of ideas. The second opinion is not sought to insult the first opinion or cancel the first opinion, but to aggregate that first opinion. And if that conflicts, then you go to the third opinion, take more. That's the beauty of the human mind, that, just like law is made and you already have two competing sides to the law, any law that you promulgate. So talk about that, Srilekha ji. How genuine is Biden when he says he will depend upon science to take a decision or lock down the country, as if decision making is not relevant? Whichever scientist you like, I like your face, so I accept what you said. I didn't like Sharmaji's face, so I don't listen to him. You don't operate leadership decisions based on science. You take the decision based on science, but a decision is in the moment, relevance to the context. Your thoughts?
Vibhuti ji, and that's precisely what we are trying to tell about his 47 years of leadership, right? I mean, sometimes I look at some leaders, and I've been in leadership for 20 years. You look at some leaders and say that, have you been doing this for whatever you learned in first 1 year? Have you been repeating this show for the last 47 years, the same skill set that you learned in the first 1 year? Or have you actually learned and enhanced your leadership skills in the last 47 years? So what Kamala Harris just told, that I won't do it if Donald Trump suggests, but I will do it, not understanding that that drug or that vaccine is suggested by FDA. By her saying that comment only tells the pettiness of her. That's not what leaders do. Leaders takes their personal preference off in the back pocket, puts their personal preferences in their home. But when it comes to country, you look at the bigger picture and makes the decision. That's what leadership is all about. So what these democratic leaders are doing is taking the country, they're not putting the country in the best interest of the country's sake. They're using their personal interests and putting their personal interests in the forefront. And that's what is happening for the past 47 years. I think that's what Pence tried to point out yesterday too.
This has been the conversation for a long time. Sharmaji, you will have the last word for the day. Is Mr. Trump a creature of the swamp, or Mr. Biden is the creature of the swamp? Because I say only one thing. Anytime I hear Mr. Biden on his campaign trail, and I watch them both closely and carefully, each time he talks about veteran affairs, mass management, soldiers dying in the war, blacks suffering systemic failure, and many more things, in income inequality. When he talks about a fair share of taxation, I wonder only one thing. You have been in the swamp for 47 years, and you were vice president to a remarkable president called President Obama. Why didn't you do it then? Did nobody listen to you? Why didn't you do anything at that time? Don't give me excuses, because I also believe in the dictum, doers find a way, the non-doers always have an excuse. So don't give me an excuse. Sharmaji, you have the last word on this.
I think that's the point where President Trump has to win over Vice President Biden. That you have been a senator for so many years, you were a vice president for 8 years, you didn't do much. If you could not do anything during 8 years of vice presidency, what makes you be so sure that you can do something in 4 years as president? That point has to be brought to the public, and President Trump has to, I'm sorry to say, has to look at Vice President Pence, that how debate should be won. There's no need to interrupt people. There's no need to mock people, but have data, have points against Vice President Biden. Vice President Biden has made so many mistakes or has not done much. And that's what President Trump has to tell Vice President Biden during second debate. And I don't think he will have any tough time beating Vice President Biden if he sticks to the facts. And he also has to use the same thing that Mike Pence used, he told Senator Harris so many times, please don't make your own facts. So, and I think he brought this point again and again, that I don't make your own facts. And
that's very important. And now we are coming to the close of the time. Time is short. As always, a good conversation has to come to an end. And I believe that this election is critical, crucial in more ways than one. It's about changing the fundamental of America the way we know it. The liberals lost 4 years in which President Trump prevented the slide of America. No immigrant has come to this country to remain poor. So it is a challenge for Mr. Trump to point out to the independents and the people who are in the middle undecided. Reach out to them that what a man hasn't done in 47 years, you can't expect a miracle from him. It will be Einstein's oft-quoted sentence that you keep doing the same thing expecting a miracle. There is nothing miracle happening on account of Mr. Biden's tenure. America will go down the path of socialism, and we know nobody migrates to the socialist countries. To that end, migration problem will be solved, perhaps, to say it in a tongue-in-cheek fashion. So thank you very much for being on the show today, and really appreciate both of you, Srilekha ji and Dr. Sharma, and very assuring to hear healthcare professionals give their point of view on issues that is occupying the minds of people. Have a great week, stay safe, and on a very happy note, I wanted to say that I was at Bedminster Club on October 1st when Mr. Trump was contracted virus, and we were advised to take the test, the test. Dr. Sharma performed the test on me, and I have been cleared negative. For once, a negative is a positive thing to happen. So on that happy note, good night, everybody. Have a great weekend, and thank you all for being with me here today.
Thank you.